Welcome to another jam-packed episode of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the cloudy and rainy confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast not only here on YouTube, but on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Substack, Patreon, Trovo, and as well as on Podbean. Happy to be here with you guys on this beautiful September 17, 2025. We're going to call this episode NFL End of Week 2 NFL Monday Night Football Recap. We're going to recap the doubleheader games between the Bucs and Texans and Raiders and Chargers. So definitely got a lot of information to unpack and get into with that episode. But as usual, before we do, I would definitely want to make sure we give a shout out to several friends of the show. If you guys obviously are avid fans of the show or subscribe to the show, you guys know that one of the friends of the show is StubHub. The leading ticket seller in the world for live events, shows, and concerts. Also as well for Viagogo. So if you're looking to get out this summer, whether in the United States or in the UK, looking to make some events, tours, things of that nature, I definitely implore you to check it out. For StubHub, there's a creative ID link that you'll see here on the screen. For college football, you also have the NBA season tickets available. You have WNBA season tickets available, and you have MLB season tickets available. So definitely make sure you make the most of your fall and going into your winter. When you got some downtime, definitely make sure you get out to a few of these events. Also, you'll see here all the creative ID links for Viagogo and all the events that they have listed. So definitely, again, make something of your fall, make some of your time off back now that you're back from the grind from the end of summer. So again, StubHub and Viagogo, the number 1 and number 2 leading ticket sellers in the world for live events, shows, and concerts. Definitely check that out. Also, for my avid gamers, if you're into PlayStation like I am, definitely don't forget to check in the description box of this video. There will be a creative ID link to PlayStation Direct. Whether you're looking for game consoles, controllers, accessories, new games, bundle packages, whatever it is to enhance your PlayStation experience, I definitely implore you to check it out. Sony PlayStation, more than a game. All right, guys. So hopping into this episode, like I said, it's going to be the Monday Night Football recap. Discussing first, we're going to chronologize that exciting game, the Bucs and Texans game first, and then we're going to go into Chargers and Raiders. But first and foremost, let's just say, for all intents and purposes, that Raiders game and Chargers game was pretty damn boring. It had some moments, but it was pretty damn boring. That Bucs Texans game, I'm glad that was the beginning of the night because that game was exciting. As I stated previously, it was a doubleheader matchup. You had the Bucs ultimately pulling out the victory 20-19 over the Houston Texans. However, there were some things in that game that I think that the Buccaneers showed, and I definitely implore you to check my article on Substack. I have a little bit more further of a deep dive into what I'm talking about, but the Buccaneers are showing championship poise. Now, all that being said, it's early in the season. A lot of things still have to play out. A lot of things have to, there's no seeding or anything to even worry about yet. It's still September, for all intents and purposes. But the Buccaneers are already showing championship poise and the mettle of what it takes to win. First and foremost, coming out explosive, getting the explosive plays, putting the Texans, essentially just on their heels where they're having to defend the deep pass. Again, I love the way that Tampa has been diversifying the football this season, making sure the running backs and the receivers are all getting touches. Everybody's playing a part in the offense. Baker Mayfield didn't have an amazing game. He was 25 for 38, 215 with 2 touchdowns. He was only averaging a little under 6 yards an attempt, so it wasn't like he was having an amazing passing game. However, he made the gritty, tough passes that was needed. Had some plays that were definitely questionable that I'll definitely touch on too, but overall, liked his performance. He ended up with a 98 quarterback rating. His QBR was 60, though, so keep in mind that. Also, too, I love the way the Buccaneers defense played. The Buccaneers defensive line was outstanding. They literally were adding a lot of pressure on the C.J. Stroud and the Texans, forcing the Texans into a lot of disadvantageous situations. They were able to get 3 sacks. You see here, there was also, there were no interceptions, but ultimately 3 sacks. There were 6 quarterback hits, so a ton of pressure, as I was previously stating, on C.J. Stroud. Got to give the Buccaneers credit. Going into the beginning of the game, it was very competitive. You kind of had the inclination that this was going to be a fight to the finish, and it was. Going into after halftime, the Bucs lose Elijah Cansey to a pectoral injury. That's definitely a devastating season-ending injury. Don't like to hear that, but you lose him early. They're still fighting, trying to figure it out. Missed field goal by McLaughlin, a 38-yard field goal. So if you're Tampa, you're not really feeling great. You feel like you should be up by more, but you haven't really taken advantage of what the Texans haven't been able to do, essentially. So you go a little bit further, Texans, though. And this is where I have to go into the Houston Texans. There was a lot of hype 2 years ago about C.J. Stroud and about how great he was and the rookie season that he had, and comparing him to his contemporary Bryce Young, and in comparison to what C.J. Stroud has done to what Bryce Young has done, has been night and day. Clearly, no arguments there. Rookie of the year, got into the playoffs. So far, the ceiling's been the divisional round for him, he and the Texans. So, got to give C.J. Stroud credit for that. But I must say, this man is very much been overrated by that one season. He has not played well, I would say, in a year and a half. It could be the team around him. We already know Bobby Slovic was the problem at one point. At some point, C.J. Stroud has to play better football. He was 13 of 24, 207 passing yards. He did have a touchdown, however, sacked 3 times. Quarterback rating of 97, but a QPR of 19.5. So that just explains to you how badly he played. Missed a lot of throws, a lot of inaccurate throws, missing guys wide and outsides, missing some too high. Hell, late in the middle of the fourth quarter, there was a pass where he had that should have been an interception that luckily for him it wasn't, but they have to play better. Not having Joe Mixon is definitely affecting this offense. C.J. Stroud was your leading, he wasn't the leading rusher. Nick Chubb was the leading rusher with 43 yards, but C.J. Stroud had 27 yards, and he was the leading rusher as far as yards per carry. So that's definitely not great at all. So you're seeing where the Joe Mixon loss is definitely affecting this team. You go a bit further, Baker Mayfield, again, both quarterbacks, I would argue, both kind of played very shittily in that game. Baker Mayfield tried to give the game away. Obviously, there were some moments there where he just didn't play well. He had the fumble too late that damn near got Rachaad White killed. It just was a weird situation. Texans then blocked the punt, crazy chain of events. And then, they don't really capitalize on it. Can't get anything, going. C.J. Stroud was just that off. So if you're Houston, if you can iron out C.J. Stroud's inaccuracy and get them to stop that little infighting and bickering that they're doing, that will go a long way to really helping their situation. But unfortunately, I don't really see it. You got C.J. Gardner-Johnson coming out as the sound of, the voice of leadership and moral authority in the locker room. You clearly have problems in Houston. So you go a bit further. Nick Chubb breaks off a big run, so we still see some juice left in the tank. He breaks off a 25-yard run. Keep in mind, he had 43 yards for the game, so clearly wasn't that, hella productive. But touchdown's a touchdown. They go for the 2-point conversion, don't convert. It's a 5-point game at that point. It was 19-14. Going further, Baker just, continued to prove why, the Buccaneers made the right decision by taking a chance on him. Breaks off a big scramble. Puts the Buccaneers in position, scores a touchdown with 9 seconds left from the 3-yard line. Rachaad White scores. Essentially, they go for the 2-point conversion. It's no good. And 20-19, you kind of feel like, all right, the Texans still have a shot. The Texans play like shit. Their defense has been amazing. I got to give them credit that they were very much, in that game because of their defense. C.J. Stroud, like the quarterback I'm going to talk about in the next game, has to wear the brunt of this. You could talk about guys being out of position, and guys did not play well. There were penalties. There were a lot of things that didn't look well if you were the Houston Texans. But needless to say, he's been getting away with a lot of bullshit. And when you start mentioning the guy's elite, but you have a lot of these type of losses on your resume, and a lot of games like this where they could have been had, but it was just your inaccuracy or your ball placement that, was the difference in between 6 or 3 points or no points at all, you got to wear that. You got to wear that, especially if you're ranked amongst the elite. You have to wear that. So C.J. Stroud is not low. The microscope and the spotlight will definitely be on the Texans for the rest of the season, and seeing how he can get this team out of this hole that they're in, because they're 0-2. And no one expected them to be 0-2. But I got news for you. Jags and the Colts are very much alive. Titans, they're struggling, but they definitely look like a better team than what they were a year ago. Maybe not as talented, but definitely a better team. So if you're Houston, you better figure it the fuck out before it's too late. Going on into the next game, we're going to talk about another game where you had another quarterback struggling mightily with accuracy and bad quarterback play. We're going to talk about the Chargers and Raiders. And yes, we are talking about Geno Smith. The Chargers were able to pull out the victory 20-9, beating another division rival, going 2-0 in the AFC West, really grabbing a nice little stranglehold on the division so far. But to say that this was all because of the Chargers would be a bit disingenuous. Again, Chargers defense was amazing. I mean, amazing. Definitely put the pressure on Geno Smith and the Raiders offensive line, made these guys work for everything. I mean, you had 3 sacks, 15 pass deflections, which should tell you enough right there, 5 quarterback hits. So this team was just definitely firing on all cylinders. You start off the game, though, you get an interception off Geno Smith. Then you take that, you kind of muscle that into 3 points. Chargers offense to begin this game was kind of stagnant and slow. You can see they were still trying to figure it out, kind of work out some of the kinks. Again, when you're playing a division rival, they know what you're doing. They know already how you operate, so it's a little bit more difficulty trying to move the ball at times. But again, tight game. Raiders able to tie it up 3-3. They're moving the ball, but just not getting in the end zone. And you can see it. The Raiders corners were playing well. The defensive line was playing well. The Chargers get downfield. They score again. The safety blanket, Keenan Allen for Justin Herbert, who I must say, Justin Herbert has had a hell of a start to the season so far. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, again, Monday night, 19-27, 242, 2 touchdowns. Again, very efficient, very proficient. You need that, especially if you're the Chargers. You definitely need that type of player like Justin Herbert throughout the year. So you gotta like the performance you're getting there from your offense. And the Raiders, again, threatening to score, but just not being able to convert. It has to be said something to where you're playing a division rival who just put up 27 points against arguably the best team in the conference and the best team in the division the past 10 years. And you're holding them to about 17 points at halftime, and all you can muster is 6 points because your quarterback was fucking spraying the ball around like it was a fucking water gun. I mean, he was so inaccurate. You could just look at the replays, chapter and verse, where you're watching him miss receivers, miss guys, miss a guy here, miss a guy there. It was fucking terrible. Geno Smith cost the Raiders this game. You go into the second half, and I mean, you get a field goal from the Chargers, it's 20-6. And then you get a 18-play, 62-yard drive from the Raiders. What do you get out of it? No points. And this is 11 minutes. Took 11 minutes to do that. You get no points. So again, you're sabotaging yourself. You're down by 2 scores at this point. You're getting downfield, but you can't punch it in the end zone. Again, the game's still 20-9. Raiders get a stop. Again, defense showing up. I've bored you to death reading this, but it eventually came down to Geno Smith's inability to make plays. Geno was fucking terrible, and I have to say this. It must come down to a point where we have to really assess Geno Smith, because Seattle weirdly, and we all thought this a couple months ago, weirdly gave up on him. When it seemed like, when he was healthy, they were a playoff team. They had a defense. They had the roster around him. Why did it seem like now, they gave up on him? I'm just going to give you Geno Smith's stats to start the season. 2 games in. 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, QBR of 37. Now, I know we can all say it's a new offense, Chip Kelly's offense. Quick passing game, accuracy, all those things are great. But Geno Smith is one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. Throughout NFL history, he's been one of the more accurate quarterbacks. So to see him play like that, I will say, in fairness, is a rarity. But he played so fucking horrible that there's no way in the world, looking back at it, you can't say he was not the main catalyst or reason of why the Raiders didn't win this game. Now, if you're the Raiders, you have to be happy because your next couple opponents, I mean, you're talking about playing the Bears. You got the Commanders. You got the Bears, you got the Colts, you got the Titans. So you have some opportunity and some leeway in there to make some plays. I mean, that Commanders and that Colts game would probably be tough. However, I do feel like you're going to have a situation where you can pull off some wins. They got to get out of the hole. Kansas City has sole possession of the basement right now in the AFC West. But if you're the Raiders, if you don't take care of things before you realize it, Kansas City's going to wake up and you're going to be at the bottom of the division, still scraping for victories. And you got to figure that they're going to give Geno a long leash to kind of figure it out. Pete Carroll and him have a familiarity. They have a chemistry. But if he has more performances like that, I don't know how much longer you'll be able to keep him as a starting quarterback and keep the team afloat and confident that they can actually have something tangible this season they ain't going to. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I love you guys for plugging in. There'll be another episode coming up, obviously, for the Thursday night game. Definitely make sure you stay plugged in. I will have a preview episode coming up for that. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.